Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labine. I'm Joseph Labine. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that. It's the best way to support this channel. Help your boy out. I need you guys to support. And yeah, simple tap the subscribe button. It's free. Really goes a long way. It helps out a lot. So I really appreciate that. Also, if you like to donate, hit the Cash App up right there, my name. All this stuff really helps grow the channel more. And I know some people wanted the super chat and stuff like that, and so they're not able to yet. So if you want to, you can just hit the Cash App up now. So that's the best way to do it. But yeah, welcome on in. If you're new here, like I said, please like, subscribe, and share. And so let's get into today's video. A LeBron update. LeBron, what I don't know what update this is. Like update number 5 now since he put out the statement. Him and his agent Rich Paul. I don't know, but one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. One of the most bizarre things I've ever covered. And I don't know where LeBron's really going with this. Again, you opted into $53 million, and then you put out a statement like that. It's basically saying, almost came across to me like, thanks for my time in LA, and I don't believe we can win here anymore, and I may have to evaluate what's best for me in my career. And I always go back to the original statement. Like, when a situation like this, we're almost 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks since then, or over 2 weeks now since then, or it feels like that, however long it's been, almost 2 weeks, I think. Yeah. I mean, there's been so much speculation on it, like, well, he's not getting traded at all. That's impossible. And then a lot of people are saying, why would the Lakers buy him out? That makes no sense. Well, then why would LeBron put out that statement? Why would LeBron put out that statement just to put pressure on the Lakers when the Lakers, he said in the statement, he knows what their plan is. Like, everything the Lakers have done, all the moves they've made, he already knew what they were going to do. He knew what they were going to do. He knew they were building around Luka Doncic, and the whole franchise now is centered around Luka. It's not LeBron's team or franchise anymore. It's Luka's team and his franchise. So I think LeBron already knew that. Like, I don't think LeBron needs to try to put pressure on them because he already knew what time it was. He said it in his statement. He says he understood the difficulty of, I'll pull it up again right here. He understands the difficulty of winning now, right? He understands that. He knows that the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he has a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative for the partnership we've had for 8 years with Jeannie and Rob. He considered the Lakers as a critical part of his career. That almost sounds like a passive goodbye every time I read that. But it's, again, right here. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count. So he wants to make every season he has left count. I think he's going to play 2 more years. And then it goes on to say the Lakers understand our support and want what's best for him. You guys have already seen that, but we've read that 1,000 times already, it feels like. So, again, go back to the original statement, because what has LeBron done since then, or the Lakers even, to add to that? Like, there's been nothing. There's really been no information from the Lakers side of things, other than they haven't acknowledged him opting in, haven't acknowledged him at all on social media. And LeBron hasn't acknowledged them or any of their signings, and he's only reposted welcome home hat and, Cavs stuff and ham up at the facility. And then the only thing he said is he's tried to water that going up to the facility. Was like, I've been up there every summer since it was built in 07, which I already talked about that. And so there really has been no update. So again, you have to go back to the original statement, and you have to go back to what it says, and you have to go back to what it means. And I just read what it means. And what he means is, I don't think I can win here anymore as is right now. And based on the moves they've made with DeAndre Ayton, Jake LaRavia, and bringing back Jackson Hayes and giving him a no trade clause, which is crazy. But anyways, and then you hear DeAndre Ayton say LeBron hasn't texted me or reached out to me yet. I mean, it doesn't sound like anything's changed since that initial statement on LeBron's side of things or the Lakers side. So what's the resolution going to be? And there has to be a resolution at some point. You can't just keep going on and on with this. And when I hear people say, he's probably just going to be a Laker, LeBron knew what he was doing when he put that statement out there. Again, I don't think this was all about trying to put pressure on the Lakers because LeBron knew what the Lakers were going to do. He knows he's not the guy there anymore. He knew the moves they were going to make. They knew what moves they were going to make. They knew what their list was going to be, and their list was clearly all guys that were in the same agency as Luka. So LeBron knew. That's why he said it in the statement about the future part of it. He already knew. He told you he already knew. So what's his plan now? And I feel like now we're hearing reports that the relationship is very stagnant. Now, you know what I mean? That between him and the front office and the organization, and there's been no updates. Even the insiders like Windhorst and Jovan Buha and all these guys, nobody's hearing anything. So what does that tell you? I'm gonna play some clips first, and I'm gonna tell you what I think it may mean. So let's get into today's news. This is all clips from today, and these are the latest updates we have. And so let's see, which one do I want to play first? I got 3 on deck for you. Let's start with this morning with Brian Windhorst. This is on Get Up, Brian Windhorst this morning, and let's see what his update was.
We'll keep an eye on that, obviously, over the next couple of years. But in the meantime, Windy, Get Up, show rules do dictate that I ask you about LeBron James and the Lakers. What's going on there?
There is no update, Dan. Okay. LeBron is continuing to watch, but he is still under contract for $53 million, which makes, no matter what anything is said, both verbally or non-verbally, his likelihood of remaining a Laker. I can't emphasize what I'm about to say enough. Regardless of who they sign at center, regardless of what LeBron does with his option, regardless of any backup signings they make, the number one most important thing for the Lakers this offseason is getting Luka Doncic into a contract extension, which they can do after August 2nd. And I'm going to sound this warning now. He's probably not going to sign August 2nd. He's going to be playing with the Slovenian national team until mid-September, and he may not entertain that even issue until he comes back to the U.S. at that time. So it could be a long wait, but make no mistake, this offseason is not about LeBron for the Lakers. It is about Luka.
Tim, what do you make?
All right. Shout out to Wendy. And so before I play the rest of this video with the next gentleman has to say, you heard what he said there, that LeBron's not the main focus, which we already knew. He's not the main focus. But also, going back to this point, there is no update. And LeBron is still monitoring the situation. Again, going back to his initial statement, which is what you have to go back to, is what caused all this. Go back to where it all started. And what Rich Paul said, that LeBron's going to be closely monitoring what the Lakers are doing. He's still doing that. And if we look at what's happened, I don't think anything's changed LeBron's opinion or changed his mind, because he would have acknowledged DeAndre Ayton, or at least called the man. I think the Lakers would have acknowledged him opting in. I think LeBron would have been posting something Lakers-wise by now. Everything's been the complete opposite of LeBron's mind has changed. It hasn't changed. And so, again, I don't think anybody should come to any conclusions yet of what's going to happen. I think that's silly to do so, because I think you're almost like answering the question for LeBron when he hasn't answered it for you yet, or the Lakers. We don't know. All we can go off is that, yeah, he's under contract for the Lakers right now, but we know all the optics of what's going on right now. It doesn't seem like he wants to be there. Do you really want a LeBron James coming in that organization with that kind of mindset? Would that not be a dark cloud over the season and the beginning of the season, especially? I mean, imagine that media day if he goes back there. It would be one of the most awkward, craziest must-see media days, entertainment-wise, you've ever seen. I don't think it will go well. I don't see how you can bring LeBron back in that building with a relationship that soured now. It sounds like with the front office and just the organization. And when he comes out and basically says, "I don't believe in the team I have," I mean, what do those guys think? Right? What does JJ Redick think? I mean, I don't think it's anything personal, but I mean, I'm sure they're all good friends. But I mean, still, I just don't know how that, because once they start losing some games and they go on a losing streak, which could happen, they play in the West, and I don't think anybody thinks that team is a legit contender right now. And so, what is LeBron going to be like then? If he's upset and not happy now, what's he going to be like when they start losing games? Because again, you have to go back to what he said right there, the last part there. He wants to make every season he has left count. LeBron knows his time is ticking and he's on the clock. If a guy knows he only has 1 or 2 years left of playing ball, Why in the hell would he want to waste any second of that? He doesn't. That's why he made this fuss. So I don't see why the Lakers would want that guy in their building. Even if you can't trade him, which is why I brought up buyout, and we'll get into the buyout part of stuff here in a minute. Part of buyout thing here in a minute. But if the guy doesn't want to, if he wants every season he has left count, he doesn't believe in what you're doing. That's not going to be a good mix. When you have when you have an organization and a star player going in two different directions, that usually means it's time to break up. It's time to move on and be done for good. But you can't have, it's like tug of war. You can't have one person pulling this way during the season and another place everybody else is pulling this way. It ain't going to work. It's only going to cause more friction and cause more tension. And so that's one way to look at this. He again, why the hell would he want to be stuck there? And why would the Lakers even want him in the building? I don't know. Let's see what the rest what the next gentleman had to say. He brought up an interesting point.
What's going on in LA?
Yeah, look, LeBron and the Lakers are in this weird limbo that I would love to be in, a $53 million limbo. All you have to do is be one of the best players of all time near the end of his career with a co-star that they're trying to, reset everything around and build around long term. But, the question I hear about LeBron most often around the league is he trying to bully his way to a buyout from the Lakers? And that's always quickly followed by, there's no way the Lakers could ever let that happen, right? But my guess is that he won't exactly be thrilled, but he will be there for training camp and he will be in a Lakers uniform this season.
I'm muted. My bad. So again, he says there's no way in hell the Lakers will let that happen. But if you go back to what I just said, why would they want that guy in the building? I don't think that's why would he even want to be, which he doesn't. But why I don't think he does. Why would they want that in the building? Like, do you really think that's going to lead to a championship? There's no moves you guys can make that's going to make you significantly better to win a championship. DeAndre Ayton is not moving the needle. I know every year a lot of people in the LA media like to sell, this pipe dream of the team every year, especially since LeBron's been there with the 20 different rosters they've had since he's been there, it feels like. And every year it's their year. We're loaded this year. We're going to win it all. And then end up not making the playoffs, being a play-in team, or they flop in the first round or get swept. Like, it's the same crap every single year. It's not going to change. Nothing's going to change. There's no DeAndre Ayton's not moving the needle. If LeBron was that excited and all in, he would have called him and by now and acknowledged it publicly. He hasn't even called the guy privately. It's like I said on TuneIn Sports Channel today. The guy's got a better shot of getting a call from his ex than he does LeBron James at this point. He ain't getting a call from LeBron. I mean, come on. I mean, again, why would the Lakers do that? Well, here's one way I think why the Lakers wouldn't consider a buyout. And that's because I think LeBron, if he's trying to get $53 million and stay and get a buyout, that's not happening. The Lakers are not going to pay LeBron $53 million to play basketball somewhere else. That I totally agree with. And so I think this is where I wouldn't be surprised if they've already had discussions privately about a buyout, or I'm sure it's been thought of by LeBron's camp, maybe the Lakers, and I'm sure LeBron or the Lakers have probably mentioned, like, thought that, like, we're not buying you out for $53 million or even, let's say, $45+ million to go play basketball somewhere else. We're not doing that. And I think they have every right to do that. If I were them, I probably wouldn't do that either. Because that's a lot of money. You can use some of that money somewhere else and to help improve your team this year. And so now it leads back to LeBron. And it's why I've said all along, this is only going to go as far as LeBron wants to take it. It's all up to him. He has all the leverage here. If he wants to really make this, I don't want to say ugly, but really wants to push poke the bear even more, like Brian Windhorst said, he can get it to the point where they may say, like, hey, you know what, maybe it's best we do split ways, but how are we going to figure this out financially with a buyout? He's not going to be traded. I don't think LeBron wants a trade on his resume, and a trade in a guy with a $53 million salary is hard to do, especially with 1 year left at 40 years old. I don't care who you are. That's a trade's impossible. He's not getting traded. It's only a buyout is the only way. It has always been the only way. And so, let's see what Brian Windhorst also said today on his local ESPN Cleveland show, talking about the Cavs side of things. Obviously, LeBron, if he was bought out, I think a lot of people assume the Cavs will be the number one team he would go to. It makes the most sense. The East is wide open. Obviously, the Cavs have 2 roster spots. They can bring him in on a minimum. And he may be the piece they need to finally get over the hump. I mean, they have a team that's ready to win now in a very weak, wide open Eastern Conference next year. Here's what Wendy had to say today.
Again, not allowed.
Yeah.
So
then we can revisit the conversation a year from now.
So this is where you're at. Either the Cavs will, I just talked myself right through this. Either the Cavs will trade Donovan Mitchell for him, or he will take a $53 million buyout by September or whatever, or October or whatever. Those are the two, those are the 2 ways he gets to Cleveland. That the Lakers give him 53. I guess in theory he could take less money, but if he wanted to take less money, Chris, why would he not just opt out?
Right.
His actions have already said, I'm taking the 53. So yeah, a year from now, it's very clear to me that the Lakers are preparing to move on. And again, this is in July. Let's say the Lakers win 57 games. Let's say they go blasting through the Western Conference playoffs. Let's say Luka wins the MVP. Let's say LeBron averages 40 in the finals, okay? Would they then be like, you know what, maybe we should re-sign him? Yeah, okay? But as we sit here in July, it looks like the Lakers are planning on this being the last year for LeBron.
So again, if you're planning on this being your last year for LeBron, right, and you're building around Luka, let's go back to what he said there in the beginning about the buyout part of things, because that's really my whole point with this is why would the Lakers pay LeBron $53 million? Again, I already said I agree with that. They have every right not to accept that for the buy. I'm sure LeBron will take that buyout, obviously, but they're not going to do that. However, like he said there, LeBron could, in theory, take less money in a buyout, where the Lakers may actually agree to that. And so this all, again, goes back to LeBron. It's all up to him. How bad do you really want to win? Your statement says that you want to make every season you have left count, right? And in both of these statements here, especially, it's number one, it says LeBron wants to compete for a championship. It says that's your goal. And he knows that the Lakers are building for the future, but he also values a realistic chance of winning it all. So what he's telling you is that the Lakers are moving in a different direction. They're not really trying to win it all next year. He's trying to win it all next year because he only has a couple years left, and he knows that, and he's trying to make every season he has left count, and that the Lakers understand that and are supportive and want what's best for him. Not what's best for them, what's best for him. And so Brian Windhorst said that if LeBron didn't want that $53 million, he would have just opted out. Here's one way to look at this. If LeBron would have opted out, let's say he wanted to come to the Cavs can only have gave him, I think, not like $5 to $10 million. I could be wrong on that. Not a lot of money the Cavs could have gave him. Like it'd have been just about the minimum, maybe. It'd have been less than $20 million. May have been less than $15 million. He would not have gotten a lot of money if he would have just opted out and just signed with the Cavs. So LeBron's a very shrewd operator, and everybody that follows LeBron, covers LeBron, like Brian Windhorst has, they all know how he is. He's a shrewd operator. And so here's how if LeBron truly wants to win, and I think it's gotten to a point in the last week and a half where him and the Lakers really I don't think they can really coexist anymore. Personally, I mean, they could technically come back next year, but I don't, like I said, I highly doubt that would work out well. I wouldn't doubt that season would be over by Thanksgiving just because of all the friction. And so, I just don't think it wouldn't be good. And so, again, if LeBron really wants out, if you want out that bad, LeBron, maybe LeBron's thinking if I get it down to about $25 million buyout, right? Maybe 25 could be a number. Maybe 30. Is 25 a lot? It's a lot of, $25 million is a lot of money. But maybe if LeBron says, hey, maybe if I cut it in half and I still get paid $25 million, which is still a lot of money for a 41-year-old, really. It's never been seen before. I think that's still considered max money is $25 million, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, to me, it's max money. But if I can knock it halfway down, I think that would the Lakers say get to the point where they're like, you know what? Here, this ain't going anywhere. It doesn't make sense to have him in the building next year. It could really mess our season up. We need to keep everything moving up in an upward trajectory on and off the court in the building with our franchise and our culture and our core with Luka. And we're building around Luka now. We can't have a distraction. Maybe 25 they could deal with that. They got new owners coming in. 25 mil ain't nothing to them. Again, Jeannie Buss, who's not the richest of owners, the Lakers are rich, but she's not the richest of owners. She paid $8 million out of her own pocket to get rid of Russell Westbrook because he just couldn't be in the building anymore. And $8 million is a lot of money. So I think LeBron, if his true goal is to win a championship, and he clearly doesn't think it's going to happen in LA, if you really want to win that bad, I think you opt into that contract like he did. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to negotiate a number down to where I can get it to where I could still feel like, okay, I'm still getting paid a good amount of money where I don't feel like I'm being, I don't feel like I'm playing lesser than my value, right? I think LeBron is realistic what his value is. I think a lot of people would say, would you pay LeBron $53 million at this point in his career? No, but he is. But I think LeBron understands, okay, here, if I can knock it down and get to this number, and I think the Lakers would probably agree to that, which is probably what they're going through right now. I think this is just all speculation on my part. Get to a realistic buyout number. Again, if LeBron really wants to win that bad, he would agree to that. If he really just wants $53 million, you really don't want to win. Simple as that. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry, but that's reality. If he really just wants that $53 million first, winning a championship like it says here, wants to compete for a championship, forget winning, competing for a championship, that ain't the first goal. And it's not going to happen. So how bad do you want it? It's up to you. And so, and again, that's why LeBron was getting mad at people for talking about him at the practice facility. Well, what do you expect, bro? Like, you stir the pot, you add fuel to the fire. Of course, people are going to respond to it. And I even said, too, I don't think LeBron was at that practice facility every summer like he said. There's no way. You're trying to tell me LeBron was in that practice facility that was built in 2007 so he could be closer to his house in Independence. You think that that LeBron was at that practice facility when he was in Miami Heat after the letter and the decision and all that? No, he wouldn't. I don't think he was in that building. I would still believe. No, I don't think he's been in that building since his whole time in LA. And I know where he's been working out when he comes in town. The last 3 to 4 summers, he's been at this place in the Akron area. It has a full-size NBA court. Real beautiful building, great guy who owns it too, I've heard. So, nice guy that owns it. Beautiful facility. Nice facility. And so, he's been working out there. He hasn't been up in Independence. There's no way LeBron went up to that Cavs facility and they didn't get hurt or seen in the last X amount of years. That was LeBron just, he got caught. I don't think LeBron thought that picture was going to get out, personally. I think he thought he was taking it, or maybe he just didn't care. Maybe this is his way of maybe that was his way of trying to fan the flames just to kind of cool everything down, because stuff was getting a little too hot last week with the Cavs, with the hat, the Allie Clifton pose, and then once he got spotted there, and then all the stuff, no traction with the Lakers. So I don't know. But again, he's very calculating what he does. He knows the reaction that's going to happen when he posts things and when he does certain things. He's very calculated. He knows how it's going to go. So going back to this original statement, again, you always go back to where it started. When you can't figure anything out, there's no information, go back to where it started. What did they say? Has anything changed since then? No. In terms of when I say has anything changed to where LeBron has flipped his mind and that he's forget about this, what I wrote this with my agent. I'm all in on LA. I can't wait for next season. Has anything changed where we've seen that, where we think LeBron may believe that? No. We've actually seen the complete opposite. And so, and DeAndre Ayton saying LeBron hasn't texted or called him, that was a cherry on top. So to me, that's Luka's all about it. They even called, and they even said Luka called to approve it. And, speaking on that, here's Jovan Buha, He was on the Herd today with hosted by Jason McIntyre today, not Colin Cowherd. Here's what he had to say about all this today. What part are we going to listen to first? Maybe the Ayton part of it. Let's listen to that first. About Ayton hasn't. Ayton said LeBron hasn't texted him. Let's start there first, right here.
Share an agent with DeAndre Jordan since going to the Lakers. But we've got to start, obviously, with DeAndre Ayton giving his first interview since going to the Lakers. And I think people are already past his failures in Portland and forfeiting $10 million to get out of town. He said LeBron has not texted him, but Luka has. Now, you had a great nugget last time that Austin Reeves and Jake LaRavia share an agent. Doesn't Luka share an agent with DeAndre Jordan? So maybe that's like agent, or is there something? Should we read something into this?
No, so I've heard they have a good rapport, but like by NBA standards, a good rapport between Luka and DeAndre Ayton. So they share an agent. They were the top, top three picks in the same draft, 2018 draft. Ayton went first, Luka went third. Their families have met each other. Like they have a rapport. So Luka, I've been told, was on board with Ayton coming on, and like he got the stamp of approval. So Luka's excited to have a pick and roll partner, and like DeAndre Ayton, for all of the discourse around him, will say has been statistically one of the most efficient pick and roll threats, pick and roll finishers, lob threats, like over the last few years. So I think Luka's excited. Like he's certainly an upgrade over Jackson Hayes, we'll say. So like I think like this is a guy who's been double every year of his career. Obviously, there's been some questions with the motor and whatnot, but like, I think like he's effectively in a contract year, so he's got a lot to prove. And he talked about like this situation fueling him, and like, I thought the best line of his whole press conference was, "I can't run from this. Like, I picked this platform. I can't hide from this now." So this is going to be the most scrutiny and spotlight he's dealt with in his career, playing for the Lakers as their starting center. So we'll see what he's made of.
And it feels like maybe, he had always been saying, I just got to get that second contract, the big one. He got that.
So again, he hasn't really answered anything on the LeBron side of things. Jason McIntyre asked him straight up, as he should, and shout out to McIntyre for asking, obviously the obvious. And so, he didn't answer it there, though. He just kind of kept it on the Lucas side of things. And McIntyre later on in this interview, right here, kind of like asked him, like, hey, man, you haven't really answered the LeBron side of stuff. Here's what he had to say about the LeBron stuff finally.
Move down the road. So I'm a little skeptical right now, but it's fluid.
So you reported LeBron and the Lakers management not getting along great. Is this because maybe LeBron, he's just upset that he's no longer the guy to build around and it's Luka? Is this him pouting? Does he have a player in mind? What?
I think it's a little bit of all that, right? Like this is the first time you could say in LeBron's dropped. With the exception, is a Jokic available either for trade or to sign one of those guys? Jokic would still be under contract.
I think it's right here. I think I went a little too far ahead. Let me listen.
But like, does someone want out at that point? And then the Lakers have the flexibility with multiple picks, some expiring contracts, and maybe some young players at that point that like you could flip that for the next star post LeBron. So I think he's been trying to put some pressure on them to do something, and we'll see, I guess, the rest of it.
Yeah, right. It'd be right here. So, I probably should just kept playing it. My bad. So
it's probably somewhere in between. Just because, again, like if you go back to the playoffs a couple months ago, they literally could not play a center. Like JJ Redick in foot up, he's fine. They're I mean, but I think these are all positive signs.
You're not talking
right here. Here we go. All right. Sorry about that. So I lost my timestamp. You heard some other stuff though you were saying, but again, so I have my timestamp 2 minutes too late. My bad on that. So here it is. Here's right here where I said McIntyre was then asked him, like, hey man, you're kind of dodging LeBron stuff. What's really going on? Here's what he actually had to say in full context.
On August 2nd.
Okay, so a lot of Luka talk, Jovan. You're not talking about LeBron a lot. What's going on?
It's been quiet, and I came on here and we talked about it. Like, I don't think he's going to get traded. I think this has been just him putting some pressure on the organization because he sees the finish line and he's trying to get them to move that first round pick, to invest in this year's roster and not look ahead to 2026 or 2027, because there's the report by ESPN that they're trying to keep the cap sheet clean for the summer of 2027 when Giannis could potentially be available, or is a Jokic available either for trade or to sign one of those guys. Jokic would still be under contract, but like does someone want out at that point? And then the Lakers have the flexibility with multiple picks, some expiring contracts, and maybe some young players at that point that like you could flip that for the next star post LeBron. So I think he's been trying to put some pressure on them to do something, and we'll see, I guess, the rest of this month if they do it.
Let's ask, is there a deal to be had right now with their 2026 first? By the way, the 2026 draft class is pretty damn good. A lot of good players. But like Dalton Connect in the first, that's not getting you much.
So they can't trade the 2026. It has to be the 2031 or 32. So I guess the upside there is like you are betting on what are the Lakers going to look like in 6 or 7 years, which I mean, Luka will be, I guess, what, 32, 33. Yeah. Should still be in like maybe the tail end of his prime, but still probably in his prime. I think that pick has value. I think the issue has been like we've seen teams start to value first round picks again in a way that they hadn't for the last few years. So if you look at it, like some of these trades that have happened, like the prices for guys have dropped, with the exception of like the Michael Porter Jr. trade with Cam Johnson. Like first round picks aren't flying around anymore. So I do think if they put Dalton Connect and the first on the table, they could get in some conversations that like on paper maybe you wouldn't expect them to, but it doesn't seem like they want to do that. It seems like they like having a first going into the season and having that flexibility to maybe make a move or make a move down the road. So I'm a little skeptical right now, but it's fluid.
So you reported LeBron.
So it's a very fluid situation. Not a lot of updates again from what he was saying. Same thing Brian Windhorst was saying. There's no updates, honestly. And so, man, and what he pointed out there too is what I brought up in my show, how the Lakers, their sole focus is 26, 27, clearing their cap space, which is why I said too, it would make sense even if LeBron wanted to be traded. I don't know why the Lakers would want to trade him because he has a no trade clause, number one, and that means wherever he goes, that team would just have to match the salary if it works in the apron and all that. Obviously, let's say it did. Like the Dallas, I think could theoretically just trade for him straight up without getting affected by the apron. And so the Lakers, though, they wouldn't have any leverage in that situation. They would just take back whoever contract they give them, but that may not be players they want, and it may be contracts that could hinder them with that plan in 26 and 27 because what if a guy has 2 years left and maybe he's making a little more money than they would have paid him? Maybe that extra money adds up when you're trying to sign somebody. And so, you know, I could see why they wouldn't want to trade. And I don't think LeBron wanted to trade ever. A trade's never going to happen, but he didn't mention there a buyout, but a buyout is the only possible way out of this, like I've said. And so, again, as quiet as it sounds right, as it seems right now, and as what these guys are saying, these guys know, obviously, it's what they do every day. They have many, many conversations off the record with people constantly. Like the video I showed from Windhorst today, he said in that same video, he's had many, many conversations with a lot of people nonstop, trying to find and see what's going on, and he still can't get a conclusion on it. I don't think this guy, Mr. BUYOUT, can either. So that's what they're all telling you. They said it. So when it gets quiet, though, what does that really mean? Does that mean something's really going on behind the scenes, though? Something's got to be going on. And I think Windhorst is kind of like saying that today, too. Like, something's got to be going on here because you don't come out and do all this and put out this statement and go through all this without having a resolution. Like, there was a goal and an agenda with this, clearly. So that's why I said you have to, when you can't figure it out, you got to go back to this statement. This is where it all started. What does the statement say? And has anything changed since then? According to the statement, no. Like I said, nothing's changed. So what's going to be the resolution? The only resolution I see is a buyout. Here's the rest of Mr. BUYOUT's statement or his analysis on was this the herd today?
Lakers management not getting along great. Is this because maybe LeBron, he's just upset that he's no longer the guy to build around and it's Luka? Is this him pouting? Does he have a player in mind? What?
I think it's a little bit of all that, right? This is the first time you could say in LeBron's career he hasn't been the sole focus or the primary focus of his franchise that he's been on. Like even with AD, it was always LeBron trying to pass the baton to AD. Luka just came in and got the baton, right? From owner, like he was handed it on a golden pillow. So and understandably so, because he's at worst top 5 player in the league, if not top 3, with the upside to be the best player in my opinion and win an MVP. So like, I get it. He's a guy who's about to enter his prime, has already led a team to the finals. But LeBron's just, I think the big thing is like he sees the finish line, whether it's another year, 2 years, and he wants to win that 5th ring. And it doesn't feel like the Lakers are going all in on this year's roster. They're trying to kind of split the
Not
baby.
yet.
Not yet, but even if, I mean, I guess if they trade the first, I'll say that's going all in. But anything short of that, it is kind of like a half measure in terms of like trying to make this year's roster better, but also keeping that flexibility. Like those two things are kind of at odds.
Yeah.
But
the
it seems like
Warriors
they're
ran into
prioritizing the future.
Remember with like the James Wiseman two.
But they won a title. Like they
They
kind of
did.
did the best version of it. Obviously, the Wiseman pick didn't work out, but they were
Right.
able to rebuild quickly, get back to the finals, win a championship, and then now, obviously, you know, we'll see with them.
So that brings me to Bradley Beal. So the Suns cannot seem to find.
And again, so like he mentioned there, it seems like the Lakers have already chosen where they're going with it, which is they're moving on to the future. They're not like there's nothing they've done that shows, hey, we're trying to really win next year with LeBron. Everything they're doing right now is geared up for the future and building around Luka and bringing in guys with the same agent as Luka. Just like when LeBron was the focal point, they brought in how many clutch clients, right? And so I know the guy they just drafted is a clutch client, but here you can't count on a rookie to come in and be the X factor. But he wasn't. I mean, was he even? I think he was I think he was a second round pick. So I don't. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And so again, like he said there, it seems like they're at odds. And he mentioned though, the one thing that's consistent, and I keep reemphasizing, you go back to the original statement. LeBron wants to be for a championship. He said LeBron wants that 5th ring. That's the one thing we know for sure. And so that's why today's thing is time to go, ? Because if you really want that 5th ring, LeBron, you're probably going to have to take less money in a buyout, which I'm sure he already knows, and which I think may be calculated on his part, just trying to get it to a certain number where he still feels like he's getting paid adequate money that's adequate enough for him, and he can still compete. Maybe not $53 million, but still a good amount of money for a 41-year-old in the NBA. I don't think it's probably still more money we've ever seen somebody at that age make. And so if you really want to win, you got to get it to that point. It's all about, I think if it comes to a buyout, which is the only way out, it's all about financially. Now, why would the Lakers want to do that? Again, I've already said, you hear they're at odds. He just reported again. What he talked about his report already about how they're at odds. There seems to be friction there. They're going in two separate ways. And why would you want that kind of dark cloud hanging over your organization going into the season? That's not healthy. If you're trying to move on to the Luka era, make it fully the Luka era. You can't have that in the building. Again, like I said earlier, you have two people going in different directions. It's not going to work. It's just like a tug of war, and it's just going to create a little more friction and tension, and not a lot of success. Like you can't. We've all seen LeBron when he's not as interested in a situation. I don't know if we've ever, if LeBron does show up there for training camp and media day and begin tip off of that season, that's to be every game is going to be like watch LeBron, see his body language, and see what it's like. And that would be the storyline game to game, because once they start losing 2-3 in a row, it's gonna be what's LeBron going to be like now? Like he was already not happy going into the season. What's it going to start being like? Is it going to affect the team on the court? You know what I mean? That's drama. You don't want that around your team. It's not healthy. And so I think it's up to LeBron to continue to how far he wants to go and if he really wants to win. And then when it gets to that point, I think the Lakers are smart enough to understand, which this statement I think kind of emphasized, that they understand that, like it says there at the end, they understand that and are supportive and want what's best for him. I think they understand like where this is all going, and they understand that you can't have that kind of LeBron in the building. And the Buss family, they know that. And I know Jeannie's still, she's not paying the bills anymore, but she's still technically a governor. She has some input, although I think Mr. Mark Walters will have the final say because he pays the bills. But, it's like with Shaq and Kobe, you got the end of their road. And, they chose obviously Kobe because he was a younger guy. You couldn't pay, he didn't want to pay, and, Dr. Buss didn't want to pay Shaq, an aging star, that kind of money. And it was probably time to move on with all the friction and stuff that was going on. It was time to move on. And so, it's not similar, but in some ways it is similar in terms of it's the end of the road. You had 8 great years. You won the championship. It's time to move on. And so we'll see what happens. But again, it's up to LeBron. Do you really want to win another ring? Because if you truly want to win another ring, it's time to go. You have to take less money in a buyout. And I'm sure I'm sure they're waiting on a certain number, and it'll probably happen. And I think the Cavs would probably be the number one choice because it makes the most sense. And then we've already broken all that down. I broke it down a little bit ago. But again, the East is wide open. I think the NBA would really like it because there's not really like a superstar in the East next year. And the league is really trying to, rebrand itself next year with the whole new media, with NBC coming back and all that. I think it's a big year for the NBA. And you got to have a star on the East Coast. And right now, there's not a superstar really on the East Coast because Tatum's out with an injury. And other than that, I mean, I don't know. There's not like a legit like a LeBron James type superstar. There's just not. So I think the league's better when they have that on the East Coast. That's just me. With all this, the cities and the ratings and everything, the West is fine. The West is loaded. You got Katie in Houston. You still got Steph in Golden State. You know what I mean? You got some rising stars. You got Jokic out West already, who's a superstar. You got some rising stars out there. You got some rising stars in the East too, obviously. But I just think it'd be better off for the league too. I'm sure the league wouldn't mind it, but we'll see what happens. But I think that's his best shot at winning a championship is in Cleveland, and it makes the most sense for his legacy and a storybook ending. I mean, in Cleveland, you're the guy to help them get over the hump, and you have your farewell tour and all that in your hometown. It's great for your hometown. It's another way to get back to your hometown, which he's always done. And I mean, I think it'd be a great ending. So we'll see what happens. But that's all I got for you guys today on this. Before I get out of here, I'm gonna do a little segment here. When I do is recorded shows. I got a Bible verse I'm going to share with you guys today. Get some real life stuff now. And so this verse really hit home with me the last couple of days. If everybody knows my story of overcoming anxiety and agoraphobia and all that stuff, when I was 15 years old, if you guys don't know, I had to, leave high school abruptly because of my anxiety disorder. I was affecting my performance in athletics and even in the classroom. My grades were down in the plumbers when I left because I just was not doing my work because my life and my focus was all of my, I almost felt like I had to survive every single day. And, my anxiety and my, which is why you see right there in the bottom right now for anxiety, mental health support. That's why I show that on my show. Will always be the foundation of my show. And, so my story, again, I'm 25 now. When I was 15 years old, I wasn't able to finish school because of that. I had to go to online. And, for years after that, from 15 years old all the way till really when I started this podcast at 22. I mean, my life was up and down. It was a lot of hell and a lot of heartbreak and in terms of just like heartbreak in terms of just like what happened to me. You know what I mean? I was a lot of grieving throughout the years and went through a lot of depression because of that. And my anxiety got worse. Couldn't leave my house really for a year. If I tried going like a block further from my house at times, that was like too much for me. You know what I mean? The only way I really left the house was by bike. And there was an article written about this recently on my story on voyageohio.com. Shout out to Voyage Magazine. I appreciate you guys they reached out to me and wanted to write the story. I was honored and took the opportunity to share my testimony. And so you can go down to go to my bio, my channel, and go to my link tree, and it'll be in there if you want to read that article. And please share it with somebody you think may need it. But so again, that was my life. And then I started this podcast in 2022. My first video I did, April 2nd, 22, was me coming out of my shell. I was in hiatus all those years for 7 years up to that point. And I came out and told my testimony, my story. And, that was a big moment in my life. Probably still is the biggest moment in my life ever outside of receiving Christ as my Lord and Savior. And, that started a change in my life. It wasn't easier after that. I still had some since then and a little over 3 years, I still have had a lot of hardships at times. And, I battled through a lot of things and it got rougher actually, to be honest with you at first. A lot of my anxiety got harder. A lot of my depression got harder, insomnia at times. And, I went through a lot, you know what I mean? But it was good though, because it was me breaking through my shell. After 7 years, it was a little rough at first. It's a little rough when you first, it's like when you learn how to swim again or when you learn how to swim. I mean, at first it's a little odd. It's a little rough. You got to put on a life jacket and stuff. Somebody's got to hold you and your kid. You got to, learn how to, or even any age, you got to learn how to swim. But eventually it gets easier and then you learn and you don't need the life jacket anymore. And then you're swimming free. And that's really been my life the last 3 years, but a lot of really just restoration. Guys really restored a lot of things in my life. And it still is a lot of restoration. And, I've talked a lot on this show about my journey, my story, but I feel like, the last year has been the best year of my life. in 11 years, and I've been able to get out and just live freely again and be able to reconnect with people, being able to go to games that I love and go to sporting events again and go to stuff I like to, and not just sport, even to go anywhere, going out to eat with people, hanging out with people. You know, me and Mike, one of my best friends, Mike Antonese, is the host of my show. You know, we hang out all the time. You know what I mean? He'll pick me up and we go run around town and have fun. And, just been great to live life again and reconnect with people and see old faces and friends and family and people I love dearly. And, now I'm at a point in my life where it's like I'm ready for new things in my life. You know, I'm ready to, hopefully one day meet somebody and get married. That's something I really hope for and pray about a lot, because of my circumstance, obviously that was the last thing on my mind was even dating somebody because circumstances kind of prohibited that. And it just, that was the last thing I needed at that time. You know what I mean? When I was going through all that. And so when you read the article too, if anybody reads that, or you'll see why that was, not possible at that time. So, but I'm at a point now that I feel like God's really taking me to the next chapter of my life. And I feel like you guys are really going to, I know a lot of people watched this show or came to this channel because of this side of it. And I've kind of ignored it for a little bit. I know I got back to it a little bit in the spring, but I really have ignored it. I have for about like a year, a little over a year, maybe a little longer. And some of my old day one subscribers, I mean, I remember you guys, that used to really comment a lot of my anxiety videos and stuff. I have not forgotten about you guys, and you guys understand. And a lot of you guys I know personally and talk to you guys off the record, and that you understand that I had to kind of take a break from that. My to get away from anxiety, you have to let go of that identity. My identity is not anxiety, and for me, not this isn't the case for everybody. But for me, I had to stop talking about it for a little bit, even because I just wanted to focus on things in my life that I enjoy again. Like, not that I don't enjoy talking about that. That's why I'm getting back to it now. But I'm gonna do it in a way now where it's like you never heard me. You guys haven't heard me speak the way I'll be speaking now about things because I'm in a different place in my life where I can really look back and reflect now, and really share some wisdom, and get other people's testimonies involved. I'm working on getting more interviews up here with some people, some pretty big names you guys will know, and some people maybe you had never heard of. That's what I want to get back to in this channel. We've just been I was trying to focus more on it this summer, which we got Coach Aguirre up here. I was able to squeeze that in, but we've been so focused. I got some of my own personal life stuff I got, still doing day to day and getting better, moving forward. But also, there's been a lot of stuff in the sports world, like this whole LeBron thing. It's been a lot of my focus, and just because that's really my passion. I love covering sports. And I think that's why God always planted that seed on me. The people I looked up to in this industry were all people like Jason Whitlock, guys who covered sports, but he's somebody who also transitioned to more real life things, which is what I like to do too. I like to have that balance. And so now I'm able to get back to that. And so I know I kind of rambled there a little bit, but I know some of you guys wanted to hear that kind of update. But that's kind of this last year, like I said, it's been a great year, but I still have moments where, it's hard. What happened to me when I was 15, if you go read about it, I had a bad experience with coaches and just the whole at a school, and just the whole experience was bad. And, I just felt a certain type of, I feel like I was hurt in a lot of ways. I didn't have I didn't have any control at that time. I was kind of in a situation I couldn't really get out of. And so I had a lot of anger when I left there. Had a lot of anger, and a lot of it was justified. But luckily, I've been able to reconnect with people from there that I had an issue with, and we hashed it off the record, and they apologized, and I even apologized maybe for not being, even though I was 15, but maybe my parents and I weren't. The communication wasn't as good. There was bad communication at that time, and that's why, again, why I like to talk about this stuff. For my mom and dad love to talk about it too, because it helps other parents where we were. Communication's everything. If you have bad communication, that's how a kid can sit in silence and suffer, or anybody who's going through it, rather, whatever age. And so, but again, I had a lot of anger. I had to work through. And forgiveness is it's not just an act. You know what I mean? It's a process. And so it's been a hard process for me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's something I still go through, is that process. But it's gotten easier in the last year each day, and so I'm grateful for that, because it's been a relief on me. And it's only going to make me stronger to help, Christ can shine his light through me, because at the end of the day, my biggest goal in life, no matter whatever happens to me, wherever this show goes, is, I just want to help people and inspire people, because that's what helped me. And there's no greater reward in life. There's no amount of money, no person, nothing in this world can satisfy you more than doing the Lord's work. And there really isn't. I mean, I know everybody's so caught up nowadays in social media and what the social media app tells you to do, and everybody's very selfish nowadays because of it, in my opinion. There's no such thing as commitment anymore. There's no such thing as loyalty and love and true love and sacrifice. Everybody's not everybody, but a lot of people are about themselves nowadays, and I think it's because they're just kind of in this. I don't know. It's kind of like the psychosis through social media of just, social media tells you, you have to have everything right now. I'm 25, and if a lot of people looked at my life compared to the world standard, they'd say, man, it's you could, how are you still here? But and I wonder that too. How am I still here? Because a lot of people looked at when you read my story, a lot of people, it's easy to say, how are you? Not a lot of people would have made it through that. How are you still here? Like, if you really know what I mean, I am still here when I say that. Like, there's a lot of people that would have gave up on life, but only by the grace of God. I view it as like an analogy I give is like, if you had it's like the story I played that time from Dr. Gibbs, me and Zav. Shout out to the Paisan. I'll get him back soon. I'm gonna get him on soon. Because we need his spiritual refreshment. But that's why I love talking to that dude. Shout out to you, Zach. Love you, brother. But well, that video him and I talked about where the guy was on the plane, a little small plane, a privately owned plane, and the pilot passed out in the plane when they were in the sky, and him and another guy were in the plane, and they didn't know how to fly. They're in a plane with a passed out pilot. They're in the clouds. They can't see. It's in a storm in Alaska, but he tells a story how the person over the airways, he could only hear the voice of the person talking to him and how they helped them, and there was other pilots in the air praying for them and telling them on the air, you're going to make it, man. We're praying for you. And so eventually, long story short, you ever heard the story, go look. It's called Listen to the Voice by David Gibbs. Go listen to it. The person that was on the air traffic control got them home, or got them not home, but got them to, told them what to do in the plane. And they were able to make it a miraculous landing, and nobody was hurt, and they survived. And when they landed, the pilot woke up from the impact because of the rough landing. Obviously, he landed 7 times. And so, but again, how did they make it through that? Only because of God. They had a 1% chance probably of living. And it's like my life. I look back at it now. I really had a 1%. I honestly, I don't put a percentage on it, but I had a very low percentage of my situation. But only by the grace of God am I still here. And it's because it was a miracle of God. And really, that's what my life is. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud God chose me to help inspire other people. I know you guys don't have to tell me. I know some people have already told me off the record. Some people that watch the show, how I've helped my stories helped inspire them, and I've seen a lot of dramatic change in their life since they heard mine. And so you don't have to say it; I already know it. I mean, and I'm thankful for that, for your guys' words and stuff. But I see that now, and that's what keeps me going and keeps me reinvigorated every day. And also keeps me hopeful, knowing that the stuff that I yearn for in my life is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like now God's put me in a place where I went through all I went through. You know what I mean? It was like I learned all I had to go through. I've been sharing it with you guys. And now I'm at a place where I can really expand and get out more. And also I'm prepared. My life's more prepared now for things that I want in my life. You know what I mean? And that I'm excited for, that I can't wait. I've always wanted. So, and I think it'll be great, because God's timing is best. And going back to the point earlier about society, and you focus on social media and all that stuff, their timing's not good. It's actually wrong, because it's a lot of the world standards are opposite of God. They're not godly standards. They don't live up to his law. They're the opposite of what his word says and what he says, because he knows what's best for us. He created us. I mean, a lot of people can't accept that, which is fine. That's their free will, or whatever problem they have with, maybe they were let down by people in a church one time in their life, and maybe they've hated a lot of church people since. I've seen a lot of that. There's a lot of rage out there, a lot of anger I see. But, if you go back to why I brought this verse up today, it says, so the last shall be first, and the first shall be, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. Matthew 20:16. And so a lot of what that verse is saying is the people who, if you put God first in your life, how I take it is, if you put God first in your life, right, remain humble and content with what you have, you will be rewarded by God, and you'll be rewarded far greater than what the world could ever give you. A lot of what you see on social media is a lot of people. They look like they have it all, right? You see a guy on there who's got a good looking wife, got a lot of money. He's all jacked up and stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of people look at that and they say, "Man, that's how I need to live my life because I'm not like him." It keeps showing, I must not be good enough. That's crap. It's not true. A lot of that is actually fake. You know what I mean? If you're really secure in your life and you really have a lot of contentment in your life, you're happy with your spouse or whatever, your home or your life or your career, whatever it is, you're happy with yourself inside, you wouldn't have to sit and talk about it and show it constantly on social media. Why would you? People that do that are very insecure. So a lot of what you see looks real, looks like it's happy and stuff, but they're really empty on the inside. Trust me, being back out in the last couple of years, I've come across a lot of people again that show one thing on the internet, but when you actually talk to them in private and how they really feel about their life, and maybe there's some relationships they're in or whatever it is, or career, whatever it is the complete opposite, like complete 180. And so you can't believe everything you see on the internet at all. And it's like I saw something today I posted on my story. Shout my man Humble, love you Humble, and it's something he posted today, and then I reposted because him and I really think alike and tune. That's why we all get great guys, and we're all growing our relationships too personally, just because I think we're all just three dudes that have the same common goals in life and see a lot of life the same, and just good dudes. You know what I mean? And he posted something today that said you don't have a prime. You're always evolving. And I love that because social media tells you have a certain date. You have a date to get married. You have a date to have children. You have a certain time period to make X amount of money, and everything's like set up and like almost like scripted and pressure. But that's not. Where does God put a date on anything? Where does it say in the Bible, "Thou shalt be married by 25," or "Thou shalt have $100,000 in thy bank account"? It doesn't say that. Like, or maybe not 100,000 or $1 million. Let's say that's why you see on the internet. When thou shalt have a Mercedes Benz and $1 million. Like, and it's okay. I'm not saying if you have that, like that's wrong. No, you never. But again, it's if God allows it in your life, that's the difference. You know what I mean? If that's what He has planned for your life. But the happiest people I know right now don't really have much in terms of monetary things and money and whatever, but they live a very happy, peaceful life and they're content, and they see through all the BS that a lot of people are getting caught up in and are being distracted by, and really it's pulling you away from God. I've seen a lot of people in my age group especially who maybe had a letdown, maybe they're falling into that pressure of the world and social media, and they start turning to the wrong things just because they want to fit in and feel loved and feel all this and just feel like they're part of something so bad, knowing that what they're representing, what they're posting on their social media, and what they're putting their fist up for and shouting for and promoting is the opposite of what they say they believe in terms of Christ. It's the opposite of what the word says. And a lot of this has happened in the church. Why it shouldn't be surprised it's happening in out in the world too, because it's happening there first. A lot of churches are compromising to fit in and to look good. It's all about appearance. Well, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be worried about your appearance. You should worry what God thinks about you. That's most important, because you don't want to get to the day where you got to kneel, bow down before Him, and maybe you were a coward. I don't want to be a coward. And there's moments where I maybe question myself. Absolutely. Like, hey man, and maybe God's maybe had to bring me back in. You know what I mean? It's so, but again, we're not on this earth to please the world. We're on this earth to please God and glorify Him, and everything else will fall into place at its proper time. His timeline's best. That's why you go to a lot of countries that they have better family structures. They have a lot of better people are happier. They're healthier inside and out. They don't live like that in some different other countries. They live pretty pure. I mean, I go to this park by my house, and there's a lot of people who are refugees, let's say, the refugees that were brought in here. And man, I tell you what, you watch these people at this park, their parties, they have every single day down at this park because I ride my bike through there. Everybody knows I cycle. I go all around my area I'm in. And when there's one park I go through, this certain amount of group of people, I'm not sure what nationality they are, but they're awesome people, and they always smile, wave, very nice, and just beautiful people. You know, because they're always with their family. They're always together. They're always together. They're always partying, singing, dancing. They're kind of fun to watch. They got whole chickens up on the grill. I mean, they don't care. I mean, they just like, yeah, like they are, but they're so happy, and they have love and connection, community, right? And that's where a lot of people that come from, they don't live like that. That's why they're a lot happier actually than a lot of people in our own society. A lot of people in our own society, they're all caught up in the wrong things, chasing the wrong thing, trying to settle in for things, settling for people in relationships that they don't really like. I mean, I've seen that a lot. I know a lot of people I know that are living like that. And that's a rough place to be, especially when there's a kid involved. But I'll just leave it at that. But you know, but again, that's what happens when you let social media run your life. You end up in situations where you find yourself kind of stuck. And you know, you don't want to be in that situation. And if you are in that situation, you can still get out of it. You just pray, or God can mend it. But you have to put Him first, and you have to keep your focus on Him. And again, like this verse says, so the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. Matthew 20:16. And you know, I heard mention this verse, and I'll close up with this. Was my man Kwame Brown. Shout out to Kwame Brown. I'm actually gonna try to get him on the show down the road. And so, as long as we get the timing right. But anyways, so forget about that. But he mentioned this on his show many times, and he mentioned again recently. That's why I went and looked it up, and I thought of this verse again. And it's kind of like his life, you know. When he left the NBA, went off the radar, maybe I don't know, 15 years ago, 10, you know, and maybe 10 years from when he first. I think it was 10 years, like in 2021 when he first came out of his kind of really spoke up again. You know, he was kind of like away for a long time. And the only thing that was ever said about Kwame Brown was the label that people on TV said about him. He was a bust at basketball. He was a failure. They made fun of him, and he was this and he was that. Everybody thought of this guy as like a joke. And then, you know, he was the people who were kind of like this. The people who were up front were saying all this stuff and out in the open for years. But guess who got the last laugh? Kwame Brown. And Kwame Brown came out in 2021 and had finally had enough and set the record straight and really told the truth and exposed everything of what really happened in his career. How a lot of it wasn't really his fault, that he was really put into a bad situation as an 18-year-old and never really had he never had a fair chance to develop and to really flourish and to be in a good culture, which is really important for an athlete at that age, especially a number one overall pick with all that pressure. And so he finally got to say his truth. And he went from last to first, which is why he always mentions this, because he got the last word. And a lot of people that said that stuff and made jokes about him all those years, guess what? They don't make those jokes anymore. They don't say all that stuff about him. And in fact, he's got a bigger brand than all them now, because everybody loves that dude. I mean, that's why his channel just blew up, and he inspired somebody like me in Ohio to come out and do and go read the article. You'll see in that article. He inspired me to do my first video. So what's greater the impact than that? That is a true GOAT and a legend in life. It's like he said in his initial video when he came out that time. Yeah, you may have all the basketball records and stuff, but what about your real life record? Because in real life, a lot of those guys that were talking about him, they don't match up to him in real life as a human being and as a quality person and a man. And so, you know, and that's what people attract to, because that's what's needed nowadays in society. All these other guys, they could try to be liked, but Kwame's going to be remembered and respected. That's greater than being liked. Liked can come and go. You know what I mean? 1 minute somebody likes your post, next minute they don't. Some girl can like you 1 minute, next minute she's on talking to 20 other dudes. You know what I mean? Like your boss may like you 1 minute, then one day maybe he has another employee come in the building that he thinks better than you, and they can replace you. But when you're respected and you're remembered, that you can't replace that. That's what you keep around. That's what's lasting. But going back to this verse, if you keep Christ first, no matter how hard you feel, how long, and I can relate to this as well. I've had to wait a long time for things in my life, things that haven't come to fruition yet because of my circumstance stuff. But I see the impact my life has. I see all the stuff that had to happen first in my life. I see that now. And I know what I used to feel like I was last, it'll be first. if that makes sense. Like, I understand God's going to reward. God rewards your patience and your patience and your discipline in a way. But I would, how do I say, honoring Him and keeping Him first. He doesn't let that doesn't, you won't be ashamed waiting on the Lord and keeping Him first, or honoring Him and being obedient. That's the word I look for. Being obedient to Him. God loves obedience. Maybe more than anything. I mean, God loves obedience, obviously, because it means you're showing your love and acknowledgement and love and respect to Him, and that's most important. I mean, God loves that, and He rewards that. And so, when it looks like the world and every people in the world are getting everything they wanted because they're selling out, let's be honest, a lot of people are selling out. They're chasing things that they shouldn't be chasing, and selling themselves short. They're really selling themselves short because, yeah, they may have it all now, but it's not going to last. A lot of stuff you've seen, there's been a lot of change in the last 5 years in society. And a lot of stuff you've seen is a lot of people who, you go back to 2020, a lot of people were isolating their house, couldn't distract themselves anymore. And lo and behold, here comes this app called TikTok and all this other stuff. And they're sitting in their house, feeling lonely. And, that loneliness kind of killed it. Really hurt, made a lot of people get panicky, feel scared, you know what I mean? Or just being locked in their house, and kind of put you in a psychosis in a way, naturally, because it's not good to sit in your house like that. We had to, but a lot of people since then have reacted in a way in a very, a lot of people have gone the wrong direction since then. I'll just leave it at that, because they're listening to the wrong voices. Because at that time, all they listen to, even when you're in that moment, what did you go to in that moment? When we were all locked in our houses, what did you listen to every day? What was your main focus every day? Where did you go to when it mattered most? Because a lot of people, you look around, they went to the wrong thing, and their whole life since then has been chasing things. They may have things in their life now, but that may not be what God actually intended for them. And sometimes God will let people go down that road because they're not listening to Him. And a lot of ways, a lot of times, God will get people back, refocus back on Him by letting them go down that road and seeing how it ends. Because once that road ends, there's nowhere else to go but up to the Lord. Just think about it. I mean, look around and really look around and think about that. You look around society right now, that's all you see with a lot of people. They're chasing the wrong things, selling for the wrong things, wrong relationships, and their focus is all messed up. And our society, the world will reward that behavior, but that reward doesn't compare to His reward. It's not lasting. You know what I mean? And it's just like Kwame Brown's case. Yeah, those people sat up there, and Stephen A. will say, I'll say his name, Stephen A. Smith, sat up there all those years and made jokes about the guy, and it went viral on on the internet. And people used to sit around and say it, used to sit up there and make fun of Kwame Brown the way Stephen A. said it, and all animated. But who got the last word? Who got the last say? And who got the last who told the truth? And you know what I mean? Who has more respect, and who's more who's more respected now? Who do people really attract to more now? It's Kwame Brown. And Stephen A. I'm not attacking Stephen A. But again, he's a guy. He was the main one that went after Kwame Brown all those years and made jokes about him and said all that stuff. And then, how'd that work out? It looks bad. It doesn't look good. But again, going back to my point I was making, though, again, stay focused on the Lord. Even if you feel like you're last, eventually you will be first, because God will not let His people be disappointed. They will not be ashamed. It's all in His perfect timing. Don't listen to what the world's saying. Don't let pressure get to you. That it's false anyways. Let that pressure, if you feel pressure from the world, ignore it. It ain't real. It's a joke. You just stay focused on what the Lord says, and put good people around you that love you and care for you. That's what I've surrounded myself with especially the last year or two. I really have focused on that, my community, and opening up to my community again. And I put people around me that really understand where I'm coming from, and when I go through moments, and they're there for me, and they're not there to discourage me or pressure me or talk down to me. I mean, they keep it honest with me, which is most important, but they also they tell me, like, a lot of things I worried about for years. Talking to other people, it's like, why did you worry about that? You shouldn't worry about it. Anything, you're right where you need to be. I mean, that's good to have that. God will speak through people, because surrounding of people that help refresh your soul and your spirit. We all need that. So again, just wanted to share all that today. I know I rambled a little bit, it's a little all over the place, but again, it's good. I felt the need to share that message with you guys, and yeah, so it's good to get back to that today too. But love all you guys. Like, subscribe, share all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out of here.